So this is going to be my 100% honest review of Moco Chapter 2, and I have broken it down into some categories to talk about the things today, and we've got general, the new items, the world's rifts, PvP, dojos, the elite pass and the cosmetics, and the big issue that still remains in Moco Chapter 2, which was the same for Moco Chapter 1, which we'll talk about at the end of the video. So first up is just about general things inside of the game, and first on the topic is the XP. Now we did have a shaky start coming into Moco Chapter 2 with the XP. They did make some changes to XP, and the reason they made these changes was you could go into a world, kill a mega charged monster or an overcharged mega charged monster and do your daily XP in one go. And it was no good for player time, which I totally agree with the team. It needed fixing because it was just way too quick. I mean, you want players playing the game and playing it for a respectable amount of time rather than just logging on to do the daily XP, doing it in one go and then logging back off because there's nothing else to do in the game, which is another problem in itself. But it did need slow down, guys. The team implemented that for Moco Chapter 2, but it was way too much. And they did come to our rescue and do a quick fix, and they did amend the XP gains that you got from monsters and things, which is a lot better. Now, is it in a respectable place? Have they got it quite right, or does it need tweaking a little bit more? And I don't think it's too bad from a personal standpoint. I don't think it is too bad. It's not too quick. It's not too slow. Maybe airs on the slower side just a little bit. But I think we're more or less about there compared to where we were in Chapter 1 and obviously at the start of Chapter 2. And talking about XP, I like the XP bank. I really like the XP bank that they've incorporated into the game in Moco Chapter 2. I think that's a great addition because myself, I've got 3 kids. I work a full-time job. I'm making content. So in Chapter 1, I was thinking, oh, I've got my daily XP to get. I don't want to waste it and waste the day. So I would have to log on silly o'clock in the morning sometimes to do my daily XP, so I wasn't missing out. But now you can bank it over the course of X amount of days, and I really think that is a fantastic addition. I do love that addition to the game, so that is absolutely fantastic. So with the arrival of Moco Chapter 2, a new problem did present itself as well, which is quite a big problem when you look at it, and that is alters, that we call them inside the Moco community. And what I mean by alters is this is players that are starting a brand new account and that are leveling all the way up to level 50 without completing any of the projects that's available to them on a new account. So then when the new chapter drops, for example, Moco Chapter 2, that would drop, and then they'd have all the projects to be able to complete from Chapter 1, and then they had all the new projects to complete from Chapter 2. And that's the problem because, I'll take myself for example, I completed all of the projects from Chapter 1. So when Chapter 2 launched, I only had the new set of Chapter 2 projects, where these alters have still got all the Chapter 1 projects, which means there's so much more XP available to them at the start of a new season. And that makes players be able to level up much faster than all the other players that have completed their projects and things. And that's what we mean by the term alters inside the game. Now, this is kind of a problem because I don't know how the team's going to fix this, guys, if I'm being completely honest. You can't simply reset the projects with the start of a new chapter, because then you've got players playing the game who are playing it correctly. And just for example, just say you take a level 36 player that's played the game correctly, they're working through completing their projects, and then all of a sudden Chapter 3 drops, and then all the projects disappear or reset. It's going to be not a nice player experience for new players playing the game properly. So it's not as simple as just resetting the projects, and I really don't know how the team is going to tackle this. So I can't offer any advice here because I've been racking my brains, but I just can't figure it out, guys. It is a tough one. I mean, we haven't got XP leaderboards in the game anymore, so these alters that we're getting a head start with all the reserved XP that they save from the projects didn't make a massive difference because you couldn't see them on the leaderboards. But this is just another reason why XP leaderboards are crazy, in my humble opinion. But then again, when you look at the other side of the coin, guys, everyone should start on a level playing field with the same amount of XP, I guess. So it is going to be a problem, but I just don't know how the team is going to fix it for Chapter 3. But it does need fixing. It does need fixing, guys, because like I say, it's not fair to let other players have an XP advantage at the start of a new chapter. But that is just a problem I wanted to talk about. That's alters. So if you hear the term alters inside a game, that's what we mean, my friends. And also, I want to touch on as well the removal of leaderboards. Now, there was a bit of an uproar in the community. People are saying, oh, the XP leaderboards are gone, but they're totally irrelevant, guys. XP leaderboards are totally irrelevant. Yes, given the option, I'll admit it, I would rather have them there than not have them there. Just because it's something to visually look at while you're playing the game and just out of interest see where you are. But the problem is with XP leaderboards, if you keep on top of your daily jobs, keep on top of your projects, do your daily XP every day, complete all the time trials for the dojos and rifts in the game, everything else, there is the same amount of XP for every player in the game. So logically speaking, if we all done it, we're all going to be at the exact same level at the end of the season. If we completed our events and everything else and the shard pass and stuff, we're all going to be at exactly the same level. So it's pointless. XP leaderboards are pointless. And we do need some sort of leaderboards in the game, which I'm going to do a standalone video on. I might have already posted that. If I have, I'll link it in the comments. But if I haven't, I'll be posting it after this one. So don't worry about that, guys. But I think that is everything in general. Plus, with the XP leaderboards as well, we're seeing in Chapter 1, they got spoiled. People shard farmed and then the exploit got patched. And then the people that shard farmed 3 or 4 levels above everyone else, we couldn't catch them up. It was impossible for us to catch them up inside the game. So that's just another thing with XP leaderboards. If there's an exploit there and people exploit it, the leaderboards are irrelevant. You know what I mean, guys? So it's not the be all and end all with the XP leaderboards. But like I did say, I'd rather have it in the game than not have it because it was a visual thing. But we need leaderboards. We need skill-based leaderboards rather than XP leaderboards. So another issue we got in Chapter 2 was the lobbies. And I'll put that under the general category. And I see what they try to do. They sort of try to revamp them to make them a bit more user-friendly. They actually done the opposite by accident, guys, by accident. But I really think we need old lobbies back because they were much more user-friendly. They were much simpler. But all we need in addition is the old lobbies is a remove from team function instead of kick from lobby. We can have the kick from lobby there as well, but I'd like a remove from team option as well. Just so when someone jumps in your team inside your lobby, you can just remove them from your team without removing them from your lobby. And plus, it was so much easier to deathball. Do it like set up a deathball stream for me personally and say, all right, we're deathball and set up a lobby. Everyone joins. You go in a world rather than having to join your chat group, click on your name. It's just a bit messy the way it is. And it was much easier with the old lobby system. And it is something I've seen a lot of players ask about and want to do is this deathball farm because I've got world projects and things to do. So I think the old lobbies need to come back with that little minor tweaking. And I think they're more or less perfect the way they were, just with that little option I'm mentioning there. So that is kind of everything in the general. Not too bad. They've done more or less a good job with the XP. We got off to a shaky start. They did fix it. I love the XP bank. We need some changes to the lobby. I think we need to fetch the old lobbies back. So the rifts in Chapter 2, I think, are absolutely fantastic. I think they're a big upgrade from Chapter 1. I did like them in Chapter 1, you know. But in Chapter 2, hats off to the team. I think they've done a great job. The actual feel like proper rifts now, if that makes sense, rather than like in Chapter 1. It was just something you fought your way through and you fought like kind of like a mini world boss at the end that was a bit stronger. But these feel like actual rifts with actual proper bosses. Like Drain of the Vibe Vampire and Axis and things. And I think the mechanics are way better in these rifts. They are harder. I think they're much more difficult than the rifts in Chapter 1. We had Rooftop Rumble Nightmare, which was the hardest rift in Chapter 1. But these ones are really difficult and they have got some great mechanics that you've got to work together as a team to beat. And I really think they've done a great job with the rifts. And I really think it is a step in the right direction. And we're moving in the right direction going in towards Chapter 3. With improved rifts and things. So I can't wait to see what they cook up for Chapter 3 with the rifts if they've done this with Chapter 2 rifts. And the dojos, let's talk a little bit about the dojos. Now, I did post a standalone video on Sewer King Nightmare. But on a whole, I think the dojos were a bit easier this chapter. And that might be because we've played Moco, or I've played Moco all the way through Chapter 1. I think I got to like level 140, 141 or something in Chapter 1. I've played it every day. And I might have just got accustomed to the game and got better at the game, which in turn has made the Chapter 2 dojos feel much easier to me. Or it might just be that they are just easier. I just feel in Chapter 1 they were a bit better because we had NPCs in some of the dojos in Chapter 1, which changed the dynamics of the dojo a little bit. And we didn't have anything like that inside Chapter 2. It was just yourself and the monsters, the enemies that you had to take down. But I did feel they were a little bit easier. And like I said before about the Sewer King Nightmare dojo, too much RNG. I did a standalone video about that, talking about it. Don't mind a little bit of RNG in the game, because I think that makes the game fun. and stops it from feeling monotonous and repetitive if there is a little bit of RNG there. But Sewer King Nightmare, too much RNG at the start. He had like 5 different attack patterns. You've got to keep the same attack pattern. You've just got to keep the same attack pattern to make it fair for everyone. You know, it was literally a nightmare. The name was fitting for that dojo. So that's something that I would like to see in Chapter 3, a bit less RNG to that extent with the dojos, and maybe also more NPCs in some of the dojos just to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, they weren't too bad. Arguably, I think Tag Team was the best dojo there because I think that was the highest skill ceiling dojo. I think that was the dojo that required the most skill to complete. And it was a great dojo, like things like that. I think that's a bit unique. 2 sets of enemies on either side of the dojo. I think it was fantastic. But yeah, no big issues with the dojos. Just a bit less RNG going into Chapter 3. Not to the extent of Sewer King Nightmare. And maybe had a few NPCs in a few dojos just to mix it up a little bit. And then moving on to the worlds. And again, I think the team's done a great job with the worlds. I think they had an upgrade from Chapter 1. And as long as something's getting upgraded from the previous chapter, I think that's a good thing and we're moving in the right direction. I feel as though they were bigger than Chapter 1. I don't know whether that's just me, guys, but I really think they felt bigger than Chapter 1. And I think they look better. I think they had certain things in there that just made them feel a bit more worldly. And by far, in my humble opinion, I think the Feline Invasion world's the best one. I like that because it didn't feel too overcrowded with monsters, but there was enough there. And I love the space at the bottom of Feline Invasion. You had a great big open space to fight things, fight monsters, and I like that sort of vibe in worlds. And I think that's the best world that we have in Moco Chapter 2, but the rest are fine. But I did do a standalone video with the worlds. The only problem is, when you start getting higher level, it's really difficult to do things on your own in the worlds. And I did post a standalone video with this, explaining some ideas and solutions on how to tackle this, going in towards Chapter 3. So I won't go over it too much, but certainly check that out. I think there was some good ideas in there. But like I said, with some of the worlds, you're just overrun by monsters. You can't do some daily jobs on your own because you need players to help you. Otherwise, you just repeatedly die. So I'd like to see a bit more structure in the worlds, especially the later worlds in Chapter 3. How the team will do that, I don't know. Like I did say, I did talk over some ideas. I hope they listened. I hope they like some ideas and maybe implement them there. But it was a little bit problematic. But on a whole, I think the worlds were cool. I think they were an upgrade from Chapter 1. So no massive complaints there. It's just with the monsters being a bit too tough in the later worlds. And then we've got the new items we did get in Moco Chapter 2, the weapons and things. And you know something? These aren't too bad. They aren't too bad. They're quite cool in their own regard. But I'm going to talk over them anyways. And first I'm going to talk about the turret. Fantastic gadget. I really think this is a great idea. A great example of a gadget to add to the game. It's got certain use case scenarios. It's not something you can use all the time. Like by far the best addition we've got out of the items, I think. And it's really OP. It's a really good gadget. So absolute spot on with that one. And then we've got the Cactus Charm. And there's nothing wrong with this addition, in my opinion. The problem is, I feel as though in Chapter 2, most people are using ranged weapons rather than melee weapons. And the Cactus Charm is an item you would wear with a melee build, i.e. the tank build or the Spinsicle build. So I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that passive. I just think it's the meta in the game that makes it useless, if that makes sense. Because it is a ranged meta because of the enemies, like I said before, they're super strong inside Moco, and they've got slows with the frost stompers, knockbacks, stuns. So you want a ranged weapon because you've got more distance between you and the enemy. It's easy to stay alive. So I think that's part of the problem. So going into Moco Chapter 3, if we have a set of balance changes, who knows, we might have some new melee weapons, and the current melee weapons get balanced out so they use more inside of the game. I think this passive will get used because it is a cool passive. So I don't think it's the passive's fault. I just think it's everything else surrounding it, i.e. being a ranged weapon meta. And again, this is the same for the very main pendant. I think this is a really cool gadget. It has got some use case scenarios in Chapter 2. I have seen it used. I've used it myself for a bit of well farming. But again, this is something you'd pair with a melee weapon for the most part. And it's just the same problems as with the Cactus Charm. So I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this gadget. I just think it's everything else surrounding it. And don't forget, as we progress through the game and get new additions, new weapons, and we get more gadgets and passives, we get a more diverse build choice there as well. So, like I said, I don't really think it needs nerfed or buffed or anything like that. It's just everything else around it, and with it being a ranged weapon meta, we're not getting much use out of it at the moment. The gadget battery, again, nothing too broken or weak with this, I don't think. The only problem is with this is it's best used with low cooldown gadgets. And again, we're not in the meta where we're using the gadgets you need to pair with this passive, because all the other gadgets are better, like the pepper spray and the snow globe and the turret. And these aren't things, especially the snow globe and turret, I think they had a 30-second cooldown. And like you said, you want slow, like low cooldown things like the monster taser and like just the low cooldown stuff to go with the gadget battery. And we're not really using them inside of the game. So again, I don't think it's the gadget battery's fault. I just think it's the use case of all the other gadgets and things which makes it a bit useless. And then I'll talk about the pocket airbag before we move on to the weapons. And I have used this myself for one of the dojos. Catch me if you can dojo. It did come in useful there, but you just don't use it. I do think this needs a bit of a buff or a rework. And it is quite cool in its own regard. But I really think that when it breaks, you should heal yourself at the same time as well, rather than just be immune to all the attacks and the stuns and things. I really think you need something else in addition with the pocket airbag to make it worthwhile using as one of your slots. So I do think that needs a little rework, but it's not too bad. You know, it gives you some survivability, but it's just a bit too weak as it is now inside the game. So moving on to the new weapons, and first we'll talk about the poison bow. Great weapon, fantastic setup with the weapon. You've got the poison clouds, the slows and everything else, but it's just too weak. I really think this needs a buff to the poison cloud damage. It is a crowd control weapon, so I don't think there's anything with the attack speed of the bow. You've got the speed shot for that, guys. If you want like a single target DPS high fire weapon, you would use a speed shot. There's no point making the poison bow the same. That is a crowd control weapon because you've got the poisons. Therefore, I feel the poison clouds need a bit of a buff. A bit of a buff to the damage to fetch it into the meta in chapter 3. But it is a cool weapon. It's got like I say, good setup, and you know, it just needs a bit of a buff because the meta is currently dominated by the speed shot and the portable portal again, like in chapter 1. And then we've got the horn bow again, a great little weapon, but I really think this needs a buff to the attack speed. It feels a bit monotonous when I'm using it. I have used it a little bit for well farming, and I just think it fires too, so it's like duh, and it's boring to use, and that's part of the problem for me. It does nice damage when you're up close, but again, like, there's just other choices out there you would pick rather than the horn bow. Not too bad for well farm, but I really think, like I said before, guys, this needs a bit of a buff to its attack speed. And then we've got the singularity, which is absolutely awesome. You know, guys, it looks fantastic. It's got good mechanics, cools down your gadgets when you use it and stuff, but it's just too slow. Like, it's a bit of a weird one, this, because I really felt like this should be a range weapon, somehow be a range weapon a bit like the Techno Fists. It's a bit weird that you've got like a glove and you're melee, and it's just a bit slow. The super animation's slow when you jump into the air to get your super off. So I really don't know how to fix this one, because it doesn't do bad damage. You know, if you test it in a test zone on multi-target, you can pull up some decent numbers, but it's just too slow, and you've got to be right up close to enemies to use it. So therefore, you've got to change your ring setup to put a bit more survivability on, and maybe a few survivability passives and gadgets. So that's why I sort of thought it would be better as a ranged sort of setup. But you know, I think with a bit of a rework for the attack animation and things, it might come into the meta in chapter 3. I really don't know how to rework this one. You know, I had opinions on the other two. I really don't know how to rework this one, but it is a super cool weapon. But again, no one uses it. It's just a shame when we get these new items in an update that you just don't use, especially when it's outshone by the old items. But I've given a few suggestions there on hopefully how to fix them, and they might get a bit more use case scenarios going into chapter 3. And PvP, I'm going to be honest, guys, I never play PvP in this game. I don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like it solely because the main massive issue for me with PvP in this game is I can't aim my weapon. Now, if it was a bit like Brawl Stars, where you can aim your attack at an enemy or another player or something, I would probably play it a bit more, but it frustrates me more than anything, because like I have said in previous videos, you go into a PvP map, there's monsters in there, you could be fighting another player, You could be low health. They could be low health. You could be shooting with your speed shot, and then a monster comes into radius that's closer than the player. Then your speed shot will auto-lock onto that monster, and then he could kill you. It's frustrating. I just found it frustrating. I thought, this isn't for me. I love the PvE side as well too much inside of Moco. Probably to even think about playing PvP in the game. Because to me, it's a PvE game, guys. You play a PvE. If you get a little bored, you'll jump into PvP a bit. I can't see this being like a primarily PvP game that people download to play PvP, if that makes sense. People are going to download it to play the PvE, and then as a side game, they're going to play the PvP. But I think the team does know this. The team does know this, but they want to set priorities on the PvE side of things first. That's what I surmise. They want to get the things set in order on the PvE, and then they can start tackling PvP when they've got the PvE in a good spot. But I don't play it, so I can't offer too much of opinion. But my biggest gripe is obviously the aiming. I'd even like that in the worlds. If we could do that in the worlds on the PvE side, I think it adds a layer of skill there as well. Increases the skill element of the game if you can aim your weapon yourself. By all means, keep the auto aim function. But if a player wants to knock it off and put the manual aim function on, let them. I really think that's what the game needs for PvP. So that's all I've got to say about that, guys, because I don't really play it. And we'll quickly talk about the rings here as well. We did have a rework to the rings going into Chapter 2. We have got minor rings now that offer a bit more health and survivability, but I just think they're pointless. I really do. Unless you're playing a tank, like, why would you equip the minor passive ring over the major passive ring when I can just use healing gadgets and passive and things? Because one, you normally want to obviously use that ring for a bit more survivability. But if you're going to use it inside of a rift, especially a nightmare rift, you've got a tank which heals you. So they're irrelevant there for the life. And then if you're using it in a world, it doesn't matter, because like I said before earlier in the video, if I equip the minor rings and have a bit more health, I'm still going to die too much. I still can't take out the enemies on the later Elite Hunter worlds. So again, they're useless. And then if I am running around in a death ball, I don't need the life, because I'm running around in a death ball, we're just killing everything in sight, so I want maximum DPS. So they're a bit pointless, I think. I think rings need another rework. Some of them don't even get used, guys, like the executioner ring. Has anyone ever equipped that? And if you have, let me know what you use it for. But I just think that they need a little bit of a rework. I just think for the most part, the minor ones are useless. And some of them we don't use, guys. It's always the weapon attack ring, gadget ring, the passive ring, and the crit ring. I mean, they're the rings we always use. Maybe sometimes the damage increase ring. But, you know, I think they need another rework. That's just my humble opinion. So let's see what they cook in Chapter 3 for the rings. So moving on to the Elite Pass and the cosmetics for Moco Chapter 2. Fantastic. I really think the team's doing a great job. It is a free-to-play game. The game does earn money off the cosmetics. That's what it relies off. So they need to nail these, don't they, guys? So the better and cooler they do the cosmetics, the more we want to buy them. And then the game makes money. So it's super important for the team to nail these. And obviously, we've seen the introduction of weapon skins as well. I think that's a great addition. But the Elite Hunter Pass, the cosmetics this season, I really think were fantastic. I think they've done a great job there. Especially, I am a big mount fan. Like, my favourite cosmetic inside the game are the mounts, because they stand out the most to me. When you're roaming around on the worlds, you can see the mounts more clearly than the skins and everything else. And I am quite a fan of the dances as well. I quite like them. But yeah, the Elite Hunter Pass, I think it's great. I love the motorbike at the end of the pass. I think that is fantastic. I have done a standalone video talking about everything inside the Elite Hunter Pass and sharing my thoughts on that, so you can check that one out after this if you want more details on that. And obviously, we get the two new Elite modules with the Elite Pass this season. We had the Speed Kill and the Heal and Ride. And these are okay. They have got the use case scenarios. I like things like that in the game, where it gives you another option. So you think, right, I'm doing this, I'm doing world farming. I can put the heal and ride on. I can take this healing gadget off, blah, blah, blah. And then it can give you more health. So you have got another option there for that. And the speed kill, yeah, I've got use case scenarios for this as well. Like I said, I like that. So you can think, well, I'm killing all these lads inside this dojo, all these monsters. The speed kill might come in handy there. And we did get 2 this season. Obviously, you unlock the level 6 speed kill when you hit Elite Hunter level 100. But that ties into the final point of this video, which is the big issue I'm going to be talking about. Because right now, the team's solely relying on players wanting to grind to level 100 to get the Chapter 2 title like we did have in chapter 1 and the maxed out module. But is that going to be enough? I don't think so, which moves me on to the final point and the biggest issue that's still in Moco now is the endgame. So like I said, the endgame again is still lacking for Moco like it was in chapter 1. You grind all the way to Elite Hunter level 100. You know, I hit Elite Hunter level 100 on like the 28th of July. The season's not going to end till September, I think. So I've got a lot of time. I've got nothing to do, nothing to work towards inside of the game. And this was a problem we did have in chapter 1. A lot of players just get to level 100 and stop playing, which I sort of understand. You know, I'll keep on playing because I love the game and I make content, and I'll keep on playing. I won't stop. But we do need some sort of endgame content there. And I have done a video on this, talking about endgame content. And for me, I think we need some sort of like mega rift. I did say in my video, once you hit Elite Hunter level 80, it unlocks. But maybe you could have that unlock at Elite Hunter level 100. So you're not just relying on the pass and the modules to drive players to get to Elite 100. They're going to want to get to level 100 to unlock this mega rift. And inside that mega rift, have the boss drop a legendary variant of the weapons we've already got in the game, or a brand new standalone weapon. And I think that's going to be enough to drive players to go and do this mega rift, because they want to get this legendary speed chop bow, for example, with extra stats, because it's hard and it's something worth grinding for inside of the game. And I really think that's a good idea for in-game content. The boss needs to have a low percentage drop chance of the weapon, so it has a replayability factor to the rift, and people aren't just spamming it and spamming it and spamming it over again and getting the weapon and never playing it. So I think it should be a mega rift with a hard boss at the end that drops a legendary weapon variant of what we've got in the game, but it has a low percentage drop chance of dropping that weapon, and you can only do that rift once every 24 hours. So I think that'll drive players to get to level 100 plus, and I think it'll make them keep playing the game and this rift to try and get the weapon. And who knows, it might drop for them when they get to level 110. And I think it's just a good way of filling that gap. It's extra fun. You could have this as like an 8-man rift sort of thing, so you're getting a big team in. And I think it's just a great addition to the game, and that's a great thing with Moco, because the type of game it is, the options are endless with this sort of thing. And this is why I've got really high hopes for this game, because I really do think it's going to be a great, successful game. But the end game content, like I said, that's the final big issue for this chapter. Still isn't there. People are getting level 100, quitting the game. Nothing to play for inside the game once you get a 100. Totally understandable. I totally get it. It's really something the team needs to fix going into Moco chapter 3, I feel. So let's see what they cook up for that. But all in all, I think chapter 2 is better than chapter 1. I think the rifts are a lot better. The skins, you know, I think we are moving in the right direction with things. Because, like I said, all in all, I think it is an upgrade. And like the monsters and things, I think they are doing a good job. But it's a bit of an awkward time, and the chapter sort of went live, and then the team finished for summer break. So it's kind of a weird time, and I do understand that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, guys. That's my overview of Moco chapter 2. We'll catch you, hunters, in the next video.